I had a couple conversations with some guys that were like, dude, you started contest coverage and you talked about the 5th place guy. And then you talked about the 4th place guy. And then Dusty cracked a joke. And then Scott laughed. And then
it was
cracked
over.
a joke. And then you talked about a movie.
That sounds about right. That sounds like us.
And I was 3rd and you didn't bring me up.
I was waiting.
I was better than those guys, and you didn't talk about
I was better than those guys. You talked about the 2 guys I beat.
That's how good you were, that you beat those 2 that we talked about.
So I think it's important we give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
We are not the optimal source of contest coverage. I'm your host, Big Ron Partlow. We got Dusty Hanshaw and our producer, Scott McNally. And remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
And we got to remind everybody, the show, sponsored by Mutant. They support the show and take care of Dusty and me and Scott for all the hard work that Scott does. And remember, you can always go on immutant.com and use your code BigRon20 or
Dusty20.
There you go. Either one of those will work. Get you a little bit of a deal. Makes us look like we're valuable to the company. Yada, yada, yada. Right? Okay.
I've been sending Ron. So I've been following enough bike tricks, flatlanders, that they come up now in my suggested.
Oh no!
Whatever the hell
right
it's
next
called.
to the sluts, hot sluts, and flatlanders.
That's literally it. I mean, hot sluts, random dude in his underwear, flatlanders. That's what I got in there, and so I send them over to Ron. But now he's to the point in that industry he knows them. Oh, that's my boy so and so. Oh, I'm like, I'm thinking I'm finding something. I was like, look at this.
Right.
Yeah. I filmed that. I was there that day.
No, he sent me a clip and I'm like, oh, that's my buddy Frank from Germany. Yeah. I had steak with him when I was at FIBO, you know?
But
I mean,
so Scott, clip. This guy was doing, you'll understand this because you don't know bikes.
Yeah.
And I don't know bikes. He was literally doing these tricks hard enough and fast enough that you could see his tire tracks staying on the ground. There were circles of black everywhere.
You're kidding me.
As he was doing it, I'm like, look at the tracks.
I didn't even think that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, they spin so tight that like they go through tires and like they'll put new tires on every couple months because they just come off on the pavement. Huh. You know? Because they're spinning in such tight circles now that it just rips the tires apart. They're not rolling straight lines like they used to, you know? Huh. It's like everything's crazy. So yeah,
I was
it's a lot of
impressed
fun.
by that.
So we got to talk about, I just got back from Dallas and I got to say, my client, Mike Harrison, big shout out to my client, Mike Harrison. He has Iron Asylum Gym of Texas on Instagram, Iron Asylum Gym of Texas. Huge facility. I'd love to get out there. He gave me a whole bunch of shirts. This is just one of them, Lone Star Lifters. And, he gave me a stack like this high. And then he gave me another stack for Dusty.
Nice.
Get out.
So I'll be bringing you a bunch of cool t-shirts. They're all the real nice next level, like the next level ones that, you know what I mean, that we like.
Yeah,
I'll bring you a bunch.
Great. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, and I didn't take it too personally, but there's like mine and then Dusty's were 1X larger.
Well, he knows I'm taller than you.
Yeah. That's it. So yeah, congrats. And I got to congratulate also my client, Mike, on a great show. He came home with 3 medals. He got a first and 2 seconds in his 3 categories. And it was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. That's cool.
So it was kind of crazy because I've been working with him for like a year, it seems.
Right.
I don't know. I lose track of how much time. And then when, you know, Steven Didishak was like, oh, I'm going to do Tampa and Dallas. I was like, okay. And then it wasn't until like, I don't know, it was like a month out, I realized Mike's show was the same show.
Oh, that's funny.
Because I didn't really think it was a pro-am. I just thought it was like Texas Pro, and then Mike was doing some amateur show. Like, because, you know, there's so many shows in Texas. There's like 30 a year. And I realized it's the same show. So it was awesome. So I got to like, I text him. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be there. You know, it was cool. So I got to meet him and everything. And that pro show, man, was awesome. What did you guys think from where you were?
Well, I had a great seat in my couch, and I had a great view of Instagram. No, I thought it was phenomenal. I felt like the level of competition in the open was absurd. I mean, absolutely absurd, and good to see some freaks coming up. I mean, I'm looking at the winner. I don't know what his real name is, but Andrew Jacked, what everyone's saying his name is. But he's a threat for the top 6 at the Olympia.
He looks pretty
incredible.
incredible.
Because he wasn't all the way dialed in. And I'm thinking, holy shit, if he dials it all the way down, he's going to piss on some parades for sure.
Yeah. What do you think, Scott?
I didn't watch a lot of it. I saw some pictures. I did see Andrew Jacked. And then just from a personal perspective, I got to see Jordan Janowitz make his pro debut, which was really bonkers. Cool. I knew Jordan since before he put it this way, I knew him since I was bigger than he was. I was working for I'll say the Pop company, from Detroit, Michigan. Here we say Pop. I think you guys say that too, right?
Bottle Pop.
Yeah. So I worked for the Pop company. No. He worked for this grocery store, and I remember coming in there and I was like, "Hey, you're a bodybuilder, aren't you?" And he was like, "Hey, you're a bodybuilder, aren't you?" So we kind of had this bond. But at the time, I think he was doing the Michigan Natural, and then he ended up cleaning up there, and he moved on, and he just kept getting bigger and bigger. And the coolest thing, and I know you guys can relate to this, being bodybuilders who really appreciated the Ronnie Branch era. He loved Branch Warren. Coming up, you would see him training in the gym. Jordan was always strong, but he was throwing weights around like Branch, making noise like Branch. Him and his training partner, you would think they were emulating them, right? Right. And that was his thing. And now I'm hearing people say oh, he's like a modern day Branch Warren with that conditioning, So there's that. Yeah. But so he's down there. He got to train at Metroflex, and I saw his wife made this post that she said that we were walking out of the gym, and the owner came running out after us, Brian Dobson, so that he could pray with Jordan about the contest. And I'm telling you, even if you're not a religious person, if you're a Branch Warren fan, to have basically that's like having the Pope,
his own personal preacher,
the Pope, basically praying with him for the show. So I can only imagine how he felt getting to do that contest. So just a personal note, I was really pumped to see that come together. And he tried for a long time. He was a guy that you almost started thinking he might not ever get that pro card. He's been so close so many times.
Yeah.
And now look at him. So that was very satisfying to me.
Well, I walked up to Jordan backstage and introduced myself, said, "Man, I follow you on Instagram. I think you're a freak. It's good to see you here." And he goes, "Oh, I really appreciate that, Ron. I love the show." And
that's cool.
And I said, "Well, shit, we have to get him on the show now."
Right on.
So, that would definitely be awesome. But I have so much to say about the Texas Pro. I don't know if you guys even want to hear it all, or if it even belongs in the show.
It's a lot of talk about bodybuilding, though. I thought we were trying to limit that.
I know.
Okay, I guess this episode, fuck it.
Just this one.
I was reminded by being there at the show. I mean, I am every time. I'm always like this, but it was just really cool. I'm still a huge fan of bodybuilding, and it's why I still love to be at the events and be around everybody. And I'm in an ultra happy, super positive mood the entire time I'm at the show. It's just a really great place to be and all the people to be around. And the level was really crazy. The depth was crazy. It was definitely better than the Tampa show for depth in all the categories. I was helping Jaws again for Classic. Mm-hmm. So John Lee, if you guys follow Jaws, he hopped into Classic, and that was crazy. The top 10 the whole Classic class was great. Even the top, when they just called the top 10, and they have the guys that don't make the top 10 come out and do their like a quick pose and leave.
Yeah.
They're completely striated head to toe. All the guys that didn't make the top 10 are coming out and they're fucking dry and shredded.
That's cool.
Maybe they just weren't structurally, classic enough or whatever.
Right.
But great bodybuilders. And then guys are actually in the top 10 come out and do their posing routines. And I'm just like, shit, like every one of them had an awesome routine and they were conditioned and flow, and just the level is really high. And John wound up fourth. You know, here he is like 5'5", 180. And then the guy who's in third is like 6 feet tall. You know, like it's a crazy class. That classic class is crazy. Like when you see Ruffins next to Bumstead, it's like, man, it's this crazy class to judge. And Courage won the class, right?
Yep.
And you know, what an amazing physique Courage has, like, and his posing is just off the charts, next level. So, you know, seeing that was really motivating, I think, for everybody. You know, everybody that saw the show, they were just, you know, motivated to be a better poser, and, you know, motivated to bring more, because that's clearly what's going on. And that, I got to say that Valentin Petrov from Bulgaria wound up in second. That guy's fucking great. Like, it was a great physique. And then, I'm trying to find, I don't want to leave the, third place guy out. Yeah, Jorge Luis Guerrero Gallegos. So he came up from Mexico. Awesome physique. Like, just had that tall classic guy look with the tiny, like the crazy lines and the flow and everything. Really nice physique. And the reason I want to make sure we say the top three, you guys know why. I had a couple conversations with some guys that were like, dude, you started contest coverage and you talked about the fifth place guy, and then you talked about the fourth place guy, and then Dusty cracked a joke, and then Scott laughed, and then
it was over.
Cracked a joke, and then you talked about a movie.
That sounds about right. That sounds like us.
And I was third, and you didn't bring me up.
I was waiting.
I was better than those guys, and you didn't talk about me.
I was better than those guys. You talked about the two guys I beat.
That's how good you were, that you beat those two that we talked about.
So I think it's important we give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
We are not the optimal source of contest coverage.
There's been times we don't even have the order correct, frankly.
And I really apologize to all the people that we have literally skipped. Like, someone joked with me. They're like, yeah, you gave the results of a show once and you got right up to who won, and then you moved on.
And someone won.
And you didn't even say who won the show. And I just had to laugh. I was like, oh God, that sounds like us.
Yep.
And so I sent you guys a message. I was like, hey, I think we have to recognize that there's like people who really want us to cover their placing, and we just fucking leave them out in the desert to die.
Dude has his best showing ever. He wins the show. He's got an Olympia qualification. Let's not talk about him. Fuck him. Act like it's a big deal. That guy in seventh, though, he was nuts.
I had to laugh. Because I was like, oh, maybe that's why that one guy won't talk to me. Like, I don't know, because
I've asked him to come on the show 3 times. He says no every time.
Yeah, you didn't talk about my win. So we do that to people, and we apologize. The 212 was it. The 212 was. I use the word affectionately because the class was so good. It was a fucking mess. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there were guys in the third call out with shredded glutes. And you're like, huh, that must suck to come in that condition and just not get the call. Like, and there were some guys in the first call out that didn't have shredded glutes. So it's not like it, you know, I think sometimes coming from the generation I came from, we were so condition based.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, especially at the amateur level. At the amateur level, it's condition. It's like a conditioning contest. You know what I mean? To move up the levels to conditioning. But I see with the judges now, our structure is a huge thing. There's guys that aren't really in shape, but their structure is fantastic. And they look great in the front double and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they're landing above a lot of guys that's what I thought. I thought some of the guys with structural advantages and not necessarily the best condition. But then it's confusing because then the very next guy has like shredded glutes and he's one placing behind them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the next guy after that is like less ripped, but has beautiful flow. And you're like, this class is just tough. Like it made me wonder if you had a different panel of judges, if there would have been like several spots juggled,
Probably.
But that was tough. And I want to make sure we'll do, we got to do the top 3 in the 212 for sure. And make sure.
Leave out the second place guy though.
Yeah, we'll leave out the second place guy. So of course, Jordan landed third. Jordan Janowitz was third. He was awesome. There were arguments for him to be pushing for the top 2 spots on his conditioning and his back double bicep.
Okay.
Those things were just, his back double bicep was like the most disgusting back double in the whole show.
Back was a weak point for him for a while too. Like he's had to work to get that back to come up, which is cool to see.
He's got a good back now.
Yeah.
But the conditioning on the back double, like from ankle to neck, was like, fibers, just fibers. So you got to hand it to him. And that probably what brought him into the top of that group. Second place was, Cody Drobot, of course. So Cody, who I've known his whole bodybuilding life, he was a little bit, I think maybe a little bit fuller than Tampa. He might have been a little sharper in Tampa. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just going by pictures, but whatever. The look he brought was great. He has massive structural advantages over other people, especially from the back. When he does a back double, you think, man, that kid's shoulders are really wide and his hips are really narrow. That's the first thought that I see. Like a lot of guys have a wide lat spread, right? But when they stand relaxed, they're not that wide.
Yeah.
But it's like the illusion created by his physique is very, very difficult to deal with. Very difficult to deal with. And they could have easily put him in first. I was pretty tossed up as to what they were going to do regarding first and second. But Kareth Bajo, is that how you say his name? Kareth Bajo? That's what I'm going to say. But I saw him backstage. I didn't get to talk to him. He was second in Tampa, and he came to this show and won it. The shortest guy in the class, and it looks like he has a really hard time getting into 212. So it gives you an idea, like he looks like the craziest. He looks like, just deep, mature, grainy, ridiculous muscle quality. And he has good enough shape and structure. You know what I mean? Some of those really short guys, it's hard because, shape and structure is difficult when you're kind of squashed down like that. Yeah. But the muscle mass and quality was just so off the hook. So yeah. And of course I went there to help Ditto, and Ditto moved up a spot. He was 8th in Tampa. He wound up 7th here in this show. And, still easily, like we had people walking up to him after, they're like, dude, like you could have been like from 4th to 7th, 8th was just like rough. You guys were fucking awesome. And we're pretty happy, man. What do? He came, the best he's ever been, 10 pounds heavier than when he turned pro, and really happy with the look. And then another thing too, like this class was like classic. Like some of the guys, I saw a couple guys backstage where I was like, holy shit, that guy's going to be a major problem. But then on stage, you go, the condition's not quite there enough, and they're kind of in the back of the pack. Mm-hmm. So just beating a lot of those guys is like huge, because there's like so much muscle on that stage in the 212. And it was a really positive turnout for me. I had a great weekend, and pretty happy with it all. But Men's Open, is that what we're going to talk about?
Yes.
Men's Open. The Men's Open was, let me just find the score sheet here.
Ron took that comment very seriously, Dusty.
He did.
I did.
I did not. Not at all. I didn't give a shit. I had already
can't
moved
find the
on.
open results.
I was actually looking at some dog races on my phone.
Dog races.
Yeah. So that top 5, I was lucky. I went to the night show. So I had a backstage pass.
Right.
On Friday, I would walk out from backstage and I would just walk into like the little VIP section right behind the photographers. And I would just sit down and watch the show. And nobody said a word to me. And I did that all day long.
Nice.
And then on Saturday, like, cause I thought that's what my pass was good for. I paid $150. I thought, I get to just go sit there.
Yeah.
Saturday, I come out and I go to sit there and the security stops me. And he's like, oh, you need a VIP. And I go, oh, okay. I thought this was it. And he goes, no, that's backstage pass.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, I sat here all day yesterday. He goes, yeah, we got in trouble because we were letting like a bunch of people sit there and you got to have VIP. And I was like, oh, no problem. So I went and I sat like, in the normal seats.
Yeah.
And they were pretty far back. So you had to kind of watch the screen. And Will Whitman, the photographer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He walks by and he's like, Ron, how's it going? And I go, oh, great. And I start talking to Will and he goes, what are you doing sitting here? And I go, well, I don't really have a ticket, I've got a backstage pass. So I'm just sitting here. And he goes, no. And then he goes, oh, I don't want to cause any problems. Like, I don't want to be a whiny asshole and everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, come with me. And he walked me up to the very front and he walked me around past security. Security doesn't stop Will Whitman. He goes wherever he wants. He walked me past security, the same security that stopped me. I'm with Will. He just, whoa, hands off, walked me right past, takes me right in behind the photographers. And he goes, sit right here. And then he goes, I'll go tell Ben Chow where you're at. Cause Ben and I were kind of hanging out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I got to sit in the second row of VIP for the whole night show or the whole Saturday, the whole finals.
Awesome.
Nice.
Saw everything. It was fucking awesome. And so I really got a great look at the men's open. And
that'd be great seats, man. That'd be so cool.
They could have, mind boggling. First off, that was one of the hardest top 5s. It could have been juggled a bunch.
Yeah.
Like Kamal and Steve Kuklo and Quinton and Andrew Jacked and Martin Fitzwater.
Yeah.
Like, you think of 5 guys that are kind of more different. And some of them had like the 2 guys that had the best conditioning would be, Quinton and Kamal, I think had the most detail. Fitzwater had the craziest combination of having the most shredded glutes and hams in the open combined with the fullest look. He was so full. He looked like if he ate like half a muffin, he would explode. And then Kuklo was massive full.
Nice.
But the condition just wasn't there, like the deep cuts, It looked like he came in a little heavy, maybe pushing for fullness, because from the sounds of it, everyone's saying, like, every single person I talked to that came from Tampa said the judges told them to get fuller, get fuller. So it's like, I feel like there's pressure on them to be massively full, and maybe there's some conditioning being sacrificed to do that. Kuklo looked great, but he wasn't like a shredded Kuklo. He was like a really full Kuklo, And then Kamal, man, you got to hand it to that dude, to be that 51 years old and have the most detail head to toe, front to back of anybody in the top group. And really kind of putting on a clinic as to how to display your physique to its best. Every pose, the quarter turns, everything was perfect. Not a single muscle is relaxed in any of his mandatories, where you see like Andrew Jacked, for example, he's so new to bodybuilding that like he's literally making posing mistakes on stage and still winning. Like at one point they called back double and he kind of closed up his shoulder blades,
Right.
Whereas like, that's just a thing that he's like, well, how many back doubles has he hit in his whole life? He's probably not at the, he hasn't hit 10,000 of them yet. So it's not,
right.
The posing isn't perfect, which is just scary, because if you think of the fact that he could perfect his posing and be 20% better,
Yeah.
like without even getting better. So that tells you how much potential he has.
Yeah.
Backstage, Andrew Jack is the biggest, fucking thickest pecs, huge. Like he's a monster, just a monster backstage. And it's the fact that you look across a room and he's the tallest guy, and he appears, because of the illusion, he appears to have the smallest waist. So you're like, oh fuck, you know. Who else in that top 5? Quentin. Well, Quentin is, like Mike Van Wyck was saying, Quentin has unlimited potential ahead of him. This is just ridiculous the way he looks on stage. And, you know, the judges are telling him just get your upper body to match your legs, the chest and back thickness. That's all. But even having said that, his conditioning was far better than Steve's. And I thought that it was arguable to put him ahead of Steve because, you know, condition can be rewarded like that, you know? But that was like, you know, super tight. And then Martin Fitzwater was like the shock. You know, I know what was he, 5th last year or something like that, but just the improvements he brought, it was like, God damn, Branch and him have been killing it in the gym for a year. Cause that's like all it looked like when Fitzwater was posing. It just looked like, oh fuck, you train hard.
Yeah.
Like
He's
the muscle fullness, strong kid, the muscle fullness. And like I said, his physique doesn't have all the detail yet. You know what I mean? Like standing relaxed, he doesn't appear shredded.
Yeah.
But then when he like puts his leg forward and locks it out, his quad's completely strided. And you're like, oh God, you know, and like the pecs look like they're just kind of full and hanging. Yeah. But then when he hits the most muscular, they stride and just rip. So he'll get more and more quality, and he'll get that harder, denser look where he'll stand relaxed and look harder. You know, that'll come with time. But you know the kid's in shape because the hams and glutes are like the most shredded of anyone in the open. So it was, I did not envy the judges. I talked to Aceto for a while on the phone yesterday when I was driving back from the airport, and we were like talking about the placings and stuff. And it was kind of one of those things where like I gave Aceto my opinion, and he's probably going to repeat it on heavy muscle and get me in trouble. And then like 2 hours after I gave Aceto my opinion, I was like, it's kind of flip floppy, you know. It was one of those things. I don't know. It was a great show, man. Those guys were awesome. And, the best part, just, I don't know, well, not the best part. One of the funniest parts was after the show, you know, the MC asked Andrew Jack, you know, you've had a little bit of, they want to hype it up, right? And he's like, a little bit of hype with blessing, you know, any words for blessing? And Andrew Jack said right on the microphone, he goes, yeah, stay the fuck home. I was like,
that's amazing.
The whole crowd was like, whoa, you know, it was all, he was laughing, but he said, yeah, stay the fuck home. And he kind of laughed. And so they totally know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
That's funny.
They're selling tickets.
Smart.
You know?
A guy that I've worked with, Joshua Stokely, he met you while you were there, Ron. And
okay.
He had said to me,
he came up to me. He said that he worked with you. I met him outside. Yeah.
He messaged me and he was like, yeah, you know, I saw Ron there and I saw all the other pros and stuff. And they're just like, you know, talking to everybody and talking to each other, or they're talking to each other, keeping to themselves. And Ron's just out there just watching amateur bodybuilding. And he's just, I can't remember his words, but he's like, he was just having so much fun. You could tell that guy just loves this sport. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like the Ron we know.
I was yelling for the amateurs, guys I didn't even know.
I love that, man. That's so cool.
Yeah. And also, too, I was kind of in a mood when I was watching the first day. I was kind of in a mood because, you know, I had two guys. I had a Classic Pro and a 212 Pro. And, of course, Classic's up first, you know. So I go out there. Everybody's asleep. Right? The whole crowd's asleep. It's not like 9:30 in the morning, you know. And I flew all the way from Vancouver to cheer these guys on.
Yeah.
So, you know, Jaws walks out and I just yell, Jaws, let's fucking go. Jaws. Like I'm screaming and no one else is making a single word. So I just look like this insane idiot.
That's okay.
In the 10th row who's screaming. you know?
Yeah.
And then they go, you know, they're doing the call outs, and it's like first call out. So the tension is high, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're moving guys around, and Jaws gets moved to, you know, closer to the middle, and they call front double bicep, and I yell, front double Jaws, let's go. Right. I'm just screaming. And these guys beside me were kind of laughing, like they were chuckling, but I just kept thinking, like, this is Texas. Come on.
Yeah.
Make some fucking noise. Like, I remember Johnny Jackson's show a couple years ago. I emceed it, and the crowd was nuts. And I think people just, maybe they're not used to going to shows yet. I don't know, but there's a lot of quietness out there, and it took a while to get people going, you know?
I'm with you.
So
I think
I had fun.
The best compliment I ever got was from Sarah Bruce from the Rough, Rugged, and Raw podcast. We were watching the Arnold together one year, and she was like, most people at bodybuilding shows nowadays, they just like sit there quietly and they look like half unimpressed. She was like, but you go with Scott and VJ, and it's like you're watching like a wrestling match or pro football, because we're just like going at it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the way it should be. I feel like that, those are the good times, man. That's the way the audience should be.
I was screaming, you know, if I knew anyone in the lineups, I was yelling. I yelled for Jordan, you know, I was yelling for Ditto, like, fuck, come on, Ditto, let's go. Give him the most muscular. Give it to him. You know, I'm just like screaming. It was fun.
I used to love that about like the New York Pro is the crowd. I felt like the crowd got like 50% decision on who won. Because Weinberger's looking back and he's like, if I don't go with what they're saying, they're going to tear the roof off this fucking.
It's a long way to the door.
I mean, do you remember? Do you remember? Like, obviously you remember the moment, but like when Marcus Rule came out, and it sounded like the roof was going to come off of the place. Like they lost their minds immediately, and you're like, that's bodybuilding. And then he's feeling it, so he's giving it back to him. Yeah. So you got that like that exchange of energy that when it's quiet, you're like. It's like when the guys are trying to get the crowd, like, come on, and the crowd's like, nope, you're not impressive.
That's funny. And also, too, I got to give a shout out. I want to make sure I get his full name. So just give me 1 second. I'm on my phone.
Ron has notes.
I'm on my phone. So I got to give a shout out to Dominic Zemenza from Lake Stevens, Washington. I sure hope I got the right Dominic. Yeah, that's him. He came up to me and he's like, hey, Ron, I watched the show. He's like, big fan of the show. And then he comes out in the classic division. He's fucking shredded.
Nice.
Like crazy condition. And I was like, oh, man, it's fucking – one of the real wake-ups, man, was the number of people that told me they watched the show. Like, it was awesome. And like when Courage, I had never met Courage. I'm just walking through the backstage, and Courage steps out of his group. Like he's in a circle. Yeah. And he steps around the group to intercept me, and he goes, Ron, because I love the show. And I'm like, what?
That's cool. I like him.
You watch our show? And he goes, yeah, you guys helped me through cardio, man.
Hell yeah.
He goes, you guys don't know how many people you helped through cardio. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I expect, you know, gym rats to watch our show and, you know, people that love bodybuilding. But when you think like the actual champions that win the shows are getting through cardio, listening to us talk about nonsense, it's just fucking awesome.
Nonsense.
Yeah. So like that stuff was like the highlight of, you know, the highlight was just like, man, like it's crazy. Number of people that were, you know, like I was getting breakfast and I cracked a joke about something wrong with the buffet setup. And, you know, I was like, I'm not impressed with the location of the maple syrup compared to the pancakes. They should be adjacent to one another.
Of course.
And the guy, you know, some guy next to me says like, oh, Ron.
just stop eating your pizza with a fork and knife.
Exactly.
And I realized that he totally knows who I am and what I'm thinking when I'm looking at this buffet setup.
This incorrect buffet setup.
Yeah. So I don't know, just a lot of positive stuff like that. So I had a great weekend. Everyone was happy. All, you know, of course you want the people you help to, you know, show up looking great. And you know, that was accomplished. And, you know, what a great show. You know, what a great show. And congrats to everybody. There's a lot of argument for, you know, like there was an argument for Fitzwater to win. There was.
Really?
Legit. Yeah. Based on being like complete. Do you know what I mean? Because Andrew jacked, there was some things he didn't do, you know what I mean? But for the most part, it was an overwhelming kind of a freak show win. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? Especially because they went with a team.
Through the pictures. I'm glad you say that.
Yeah.
That's the stuff people don't realize is we're looking at pictures, and I didn't looking at the pictures and just size and dominance. I actually thought Steve was closer to second than fourth, and being there, that's not the case at all.
I found that like it was a classic thing. Like on the videos, everyone just looks the same, like just fucking awesome. Everyone's shredded. That's another thing about this show is the stage light was fucking great. Like guys looked awesome at the back of the stage and the middle of the stage and the front of the stage. Like there was no bad spot to be on. And there certainly wasn't a bad spot in the lineup. They're moving guys back and forth and everyone just looked fantastic. So that helped a lot. But sure, being there up close and, you know, like Steve Kukla is just, he's got such a beautiful fucking massive physique. Like he's like one of the best ever, like mass monster to have like fantastic aesthetic flow. You know what I mean? Like he's a great bodybuilder, man. But I just felt like his condition kept him out of the top spot, you know? Had he been, I don't know, what's the most shredded Kukla we ever saw? That guy might have won. That guy might have beat Andrew. You know, if he was just really, really dry, really dry and crisp, I think he might have. But who knows? Maybe they would have told him to come fuller, like they do all the time. You know. So I do want to say a couple things, though. I know I've been talking for 10 minutes. You guys want to interrupt? No.
It's been longer than 10 minutes, but go ahead.
Okay. I want to say one thing. And this certainly isn't directed at any one person specifically, because for the most part, this weekend was really good. But I did witness some examples of it, and it sort of needs to be reiterated occasionally just to remind people. And also, too, I was reminded that these pros actually watch our show. So maybe this can be for them. But I know that everyone wants to win. I know that you go to win, and I know that if you come away with anything less than a win, it can be a real disappointment. But try to remember you're in the business of bodybuilding. And when you walk out in the lobby and kids come up to you, young guys, fans, and they congratulate you on how awesome you looked and how great they think it is that you made the top 5, try not to, you know, be a dick because you didn't win. You know what I mean? Like if someone walks up to a competitor is like, holy shit, man, you looked awesome. Congratulations. And maybe we'll just say 4th. And they're like, yeah, whatever, man. Like that sort of thing. It's like, dude, this isn't a high school football game. You're a professional bodybuilder.
Right.
You know, I understand you're upset. I get it. We're intense people. But this is your chance to interact with this person, and it's going to have carryover. It's going to, you know, I don't know. I think that stuff's important. I saw a little bit of that, like guys just really bummed out and sort of letting it kind of get to them when they need to be able to keep it together. You know, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you made a huge point, because being a professional is far beyond the stage. Yeah. I mean, simply put, the reason that you're still bringing in an income far above what most very good pros will ever see is because you're a professional on every level. If the only professionalism you have is the fact that you put together a good physique on stage, keep a really good job, because it's going to be a very short career. So no, right. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think that's painful. I think it's sad that people don't see that, because what you said is accurate. It's, you know, they are complimenting you on what they see. Don't get mad at him because Steve Weinberger has you in 4th and you think you should be in 1st. He's just saying you're fucking awesome. You know, I mean, I think that's very important. Plus, remember that your fans are your fans, regardless. I mean, I've had people congratulate on horrendous showings and just say like, hey, we don't even care. You're my favorite because X. you know, because you got Yorkies. So no, I agree with that. I think it'd be huge for guys' careers. And the other thing is, I can say this from experience. I know we've talked about this back when I was a kid. You never forget. I will never forget the guys who stopped the world for me when I was a kid and the guys who blew me off when I was a kid. I remember them both very clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention that. And that goes for the amateurs too, because you're building up. Like, you know, when you blow that kid off or give him, you know, you're really short with them or whatever, the guy standing next to him could be a marketing manager for a supplement company, and he totally knows who you are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's what this was. Like, that's what this room full of people was. Like, you are in a room full of people that all talk to each other. And people call me all the time. I'm sure it happens with Dusty all the time. I get messages from people, hey, what do you think of this guy? Like, people who work for other supplement companies message me. Like, hey, have you ever met this guy? What's he like? And I think, wow, I don't want to this guy's kind of a dick, but I don't want to sink him. So I'll just say, oh, I don't really know him that well, you know, or whatever.
I go with he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, like, you know, I don't know. It's hard for me. If obviously if they were a dick to me, then. But yeah, it's guys got to remember. They got to remember. Like, I get that you're upset. Like in 2012, I'll never forget this. In 2012, I got second to Antoine. Very, very disappointing loss. Very, very disappointing. I was like gutted. I walked out into the lobby and Mutant had a booth there. Right. So I walked out into the lobby. The show's over. Super heavyweights are the last. It's over. Right. Everyone's kind of leaving. They're mulling around. And I stood at the Mutant booth for 45 minutes and took pictures with people. And I remember like a year later, someone at Mutant told me about it. They're like, yeah, we were talking the other day how you lost. And then you came out from backstage with a big smile on your face and you took pictures with people for almost an hour at the booth while everyone else was gone. And like no one was left. Like the building was empty when we left.
Dude, that's what Victoria told me about you. She said, remember I told you that? And I think it was that show. She was like, you know, but it was the next morning. There was like a breakfast that everybody went to. And she was like, you know, I saw Ron up there and you could see like he really wanted it. And you could see he was disappointed on stage. But, you know, he pulled it back together. He congratulated the winner. And then after that, the next morning, he showed up, smile on his face. He was meeting everybody, saying hi, in the best mood he could be. You know, just bounce right back.
Right at the banquet. Yeah,
that's what she remembered out of that literally years later now. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, it wasn't a strategy. I was just like, this is what you do. This is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
Like, you know, these people came to cheer me on. There's a bunch of people I know because it was in my hometown. So I take pictures with all these people. But then there's all these people I don't know taking pictures with them too. But people have to understand that, like, you know, the famous story of the second place guy getting the better contract than the winner. Like, you know, what do you really want out of bodybuilding? Do you want the trophy or do you want the opportunity? Because sometimes you get both, but sometimes you got to choose. Like sometimes you don't get to choose. You don't get the trophy. So fucking take the rest of the opportunities that come along. Because if you just leave the building disgusted and go home, you get nothing. You don't get a trophy and you don't get all the other opportunities, you know?
Yeah.
Pick up all that loose change off the ground, man. You know? So that's my little rant. Less grumpy than the resting bitch face one, but there you go.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Someone else talk.
Oh, fine.
Questions?
Fine.
Straight to YouTube questions.
I'm going to pull up some questions. Joe, let's get yours, by the way. Do we have YouTube questions, Scott?
We have a lot of YouTube questions. Though I do want to say, guys, do me a favor if I don't get to your questions. Because sometimes, like, this show, we already went really long. We might not be able to get to all of them.
Ron did, but go ahead.
If it's you know, if it's not on this show, comment again on the following shows. We'll definitely get to it. So don't take it personal, though. And I think I actually had a question here that was two-part. One for Ron. Question for Ron: does guitar weight really matter for tone? also Gibson Les Paul or Gibson SG, and then he's got a question for the crew after that.
Ron, you're first.
Yeah, guitar weight matters a little for tone. Like so it's kind of like a wine connoisseur, right? Or a weed connoisseur. You know, some of these people, some of these people will, they'll take a sip and they're like, oh, I can really taste the oak. You know, I'm not like that. I'm not like that with my guitar tones, but I do know what I like and what I don't, but guitar weight makes a bit of a difference. But the old saying goes, 99% of how you sound, it's in the fingers. You know, you give a shitty guitar to Jimi Hendrix, it sounds like Jimi Hendrix. You know? But to me, the stuff that I play, I think like the distortion pedal you use and the amp you use have, and the pickups in the guitar actually have most of the tone. You know, you take, I pull, one of these guitars off the wall and change the pickups in it. It's going to sound different. It's the pickups mostly, and I have an SG and a Les Paul, but the SG that's my workhorse. That's my baby. AC/DC baby, All
right. And then the follow-up one, Dusty, what are some foods that you absolutely cannot train on? Foods that make you feel terrible and produce no pumps for you, or you get no real fullness the day after, etc. Discuss.
I don't have any foods that people's thing with pump always throws me off. I get a pump on zero carbs. I get a pump not eating. When people say that, I don't even know what it means. I'm like, oh, weird. Because I've literally never in my life went to the gym and not gotten a pump. I don't know what that means. But foods that have spice in them have no business before training for me. And it's not because of shitting your pants or anything. I can't have that much flavor like in my body. I'll be burping it up or acid reflux, even whatever. No, I want bland ass shit before I train for sure.
What about like fats?
Oh, I don't care.
Okay.
In fact, I usually do fats before I train. That's how I almost died eating the steak before going to the gym. Remember? Fun fact. Yeah, I love flank before I train. I like something because I eat 2 hours before I train. I know most people are tighter than that. So I do like 320 grams of flank and like 300 grams of rice and then go train. But it's 2 hours later. So I need that sitting with me for some time.
I'm going to piss some people off here. I think 90% of people's stomach and gut issues are completely in their head. And they are just so over analytical and so stressed out about what they eat and when they eat it that I just can't imagine living in that prison. To me, it's just, I can't imagine like, oh, I ate this and then I had like a bit of gas. And I'm like, what do you mean a bit of gas? Well, like, I don't know, like I farted a bit. And I'm like, what the fuck do you expect? You're a bodybuilder. You're eating like 4,000 calories a day. Like, what do you mean you had some gas? Like, fuck. Like, are you bloated where you can't, like, is it like something you have to go to the hospital for? Or is it just because you ate 3 cups of rice? Like, or like, I don't know. People just have all these mental hangups on all this stuff. And like, oh, I really need to have, I really need to have white rice before I train. Cause if I have like bread before I train, I think it just sits too fast. And it does like, all that stuff. I just think that's all nonsense.
Yeah.
Like all of my meals, like I have steak rice every day. I have turkey, rice, and vegetables every day. I have egg whites and oatmeal. I have a shake that I make. I can have any of those meals before I train. It makes no difference. Mm-hmm. And I can have any of those meals post-workout, and it makes no difference. And I don't care about any of the little micro changes in my body from any of that stuff. I just, because like there's too much other stuff going on to worry about all that bullshit.
Yeah.
One thing I don't like to eat before I train is like, we've all done it where you have like fast food with a buddy. You go like McDonald's and you eat, and then like 2 hours later you go to train and you're like, oh, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I've done
like,
that.
That's the only time. That's the only time.
Well, that's plastic. That's not actually food.
Yeah.
I really like the Ron that chooses violence, just for the record. He's my favorite Ron. Like when he starts off with, I'm about to piss people off, I sat back a little. I kind of leaned back. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know.
He eased into it, though. Did you catch that, Scott?
He did, didn't he? He did.
Yeah, and then by the end, he's like, and you know what? Fuck you and your family.
And I fucked your sister, and she was a slut.
I mean, it just kept going. It was impressive to watch.
It was good.
No.
It was good.
Well, I still feel a little bit bad because I got a few messages last week when you weren't here, Dusty. I mentioned how I don't like the TikToks or the reels where people are mouthing the words to movies.
He went off, dude. He went off.
He went off. You go, I mentioned Scott's like, he went the fuck off.
I slightly mentioned that I don't like voiceovers on reels. You know, when they like take a quote from a movie, but they like say it and they move their mouth.
Yeah.
And I also don't like voiceovers on stage, lip syncing on stage.
Oh, I don't either.
But I got messages from people. They're like, I thought you were my friend. Like they were.
You were until I saw that fucking video.
And like one girl that I've known for years, she messaged me. She's like, my entire TikTok is mouthing lines from movies. That's my entire TikTok. You just like broke me.
You attacked me as a human.
You attacked me. And then I went and looked at her TikTok, and I'm like, actually, you're pretty funny. So
now you're just changing your story. We know what's happening here.
No, but
God.
So yeah, but the a lot of times I think people just have too much going on with worrying about foods. You know,
agreed.
I helped one guy once, and he was like, you know, I'm really, I don't have anything for my pre-workout meal at the house I'm staying at. And I'm like, well, what do you have? He's like, they just have potatoes. And I was like, well, let's eat potatoes. And he's like, oh, like last time I had potatoes, I like farted. And I was just like, man, like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know how to live that way.
So speaking of last week, I hate to do this to you right now, Scott, but did we talk about the shooting competition?
No, we didn't talk about it, but I did go. You saw that I went on Instagram.
I know. So catch me up though, because you didn't give me a lot of data. So I assumed I could get it live, and we're getting it 2 weeks later. Sorry. It's
okay. I was, so when I first started out, I just I didn't think about my actual technique. So I did okay. And then there's 5 stages. I finished the first 2. And then the third stage, I remembered basically like how to shoot a gun. And so I settled down, and then it got like really good, and it got easy. And I felt really good about it. The first stage I actually bailed on. I didn't have enough ammo with me, like on my person. And so I ran out, and I didn't have more. And so they're like, oh, you could get more. And I was like, nah, it's all right. So I got I had to get like a long time. Like if you don't finish, you get like 30 seconds. So that hurt and then they add all your times together. So that hurt my overall time, but I still got 29th out of 48 people. So it was like my first time ever doing it. So I'm like kind of middle of the road. And I'm going to try it again. It was good. It was a lot of fun too.
How many events are there? Like, how is it? What are the events? Like 30 yard, 10 yard, 15 yard? Is it like that or what?
It's like, so there's 5 stages. Each stage, this is called Steel Challenge. So you mainly stay in the same spot, and then they have steel plates. Some of them are 10 inches. Some of them are bigger than that. And then they have these bigger square ones, and they're set up in an order or whatever. You can shoot them in whatever order you want, as long as you hit the stop plate last. So there'll be one plate that's a different color. And like people come up with technique, like start left to right, or go left in and then right in, and then hit the stop one last. So it's just a matter of speed. So, the timer, you draw, you get on target, shoot, stop. And they're set up in different patterns on each stage. So you shoot each stage 5 times. And it was like 3 hours, which was nice too. So it wasn't like an all day thing. You know what I mean? Like I still got to go home, do my client work, all that. So it was fun. It was good. It's good.
Is it like powerlifting? Like, are the other dudes like supporting you even though they want to beat you, or is it like
they're
bodybuilding
cool.
where you mean mug and walk around like an asshole?
No, people are really cool, and you're not directly competing against each other either, because I might be in carry optics and this guy is shooting like a 22 caliber rifle, and this guy's in open and he's trying to qualify. So, you are in a way competing against everybody, but you're not at the same time. So you don't know the people that are in your class always. But I did better than some people that were like there regularly. So it was good. It was good. And it was the first time I've ever transitioned through multiple targets. And some of them are kind of tricky because they might like go back. So you not only have to go across, but they'll like go further back and further back. So you're going over and back at the same time, further distance. So it was good. It was good, man. And it really allowed me to get into that sense of flow, like that thing that we all three love. Like when you're in the gym and everything's in that right spot and you're about to have that perfect lift, it's like your brain goes clear. And it gave me that feeling, which I absolutely adore. That's like my favorite feeling in the world,
So how many people are shooting? Like, is this like at a shooting range and there's like 20 people shooting all at once and they each have an instructor watching them? Or are you shooting by yourself and everyone's watching you?
Everybody's watching you. So it's a club and you'll be like in a team. So there's like me and 6 other people. And then there's like 5 teams of that many people. And then when everybody finishes this stage, then we go to the next one and then you go to the next one kind of thing. So it was good. The people I was with, I didn't know any of them. So I had a friend that was there, but I couldn't get on his team. So nobody really gave me any pointers or anything like that. But it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm excited. It's cool.
What about the arms? Do you have the best arms?
Of course.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Which isn't saying a ton, There's a lot of like 70-year-old, 60-year-old guys there, so
it still matters.
Yeah,
it always matters.
It was good though. It was a lot of fun, and
yeah, the best calves for sure.
Oh yeah, always. That's.
Did you wear shorts to assert your dominance?
You did
that, and it was like 95 degrees. So yeah,
bullshit. We know why. It would have been 35. Okay. Done it. Okay. All right. Sorry, I derailed the show again. All right, go ahead to the questions.
It's good, and we did get people, by the way, because Ron had said, he was like, I don't know what happened to Dusty, but he'll probably be back. We had people in the comments like, hey, for real, I hope Dusty's okay. So I had to let him know. I was like, no, Dusty's okay. He just couldn't make it. So
yeah, we just made it sound like you didn't show up. We're like, I don't know where he is. He didn't log on. Well, he's probably alive.
Technically, I almost didn't. I mean, you texted me. I was like, oh, so that's every Monday? This is only our 158th one, so I wasn't sure how this works.
Yes.
All right. So question for the next podcast. I'm doing my first contest prep with my coach after a successful off season, and he's recommending me to use Halo for the final weeks. That sounds right. Of my prep. I have never used it or really looked into it because I always assumed it was used more in powerlifting. Any experience with Halo in prep? Any advice you can give?
I used a little bit of Halo, like 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams maybe, for like the last 3 weeks of, I think, almost every show I ever did, if I could get it. And one of the reasons that I like Halo at the end is because I like to tell people to stop their shots like 7 days out, 10 days out even sometimes, just so they don't have any... The amount of people who have bad shots within the last week is just insane. I don't know what happens. And I know guys that run their shots right up to the show and they shoot all their fucking arms and delts, and I just like can't believe they don't have bad things happen. But Halo is great for like making sure your androgen levels are really high if you're going to back off your shots. That's another thing. Even if you only use it the last 10 days, it's like I don't know, a nice little tool. But it's not necessary because like if you're on tren, you have a lot of androgens. It's just an androgen. That's all it is. It's not like a magic molecule or anything, but it's just, it seems to be, a handy little tool that's very commonly used. What's your breakdown, Dusty?
I didn't use it all the time. Same thing. It was like if I could get it and knew it was real. That was the question mark with the orals is always, is it real? So I only got it if I knew the source and I knew it was solid. But I can say one thing as a warning sign. I feel that drugs make you more of who you are. I am the most level, chill person on the planet. Doesn't matter what I'm taking. Halo, I wanted to kill people. I was like, so I'm dying on the inside apparently because I want to violently kill this person in front of me because she's going to write a check for her groceries. And that's just not acceptable. But that's still not acceptable. And I'm not on anything right now, but still not the point. Not the
I was going to say, you would have been justified.
Still bothers me, but I will say I felt like Halo. And again, it's the last little bit, of course. But the first time I did it was 2010, and I did feel like it turned me into sandpaper. Yeah. Like I looked like I was cold all the time because I did it for I think 2.5 weeks. But we did a good dose. I want to say I did like 30 or 40 a day. And I mean, I remember like I as it started working, I'm like, I don't know if this is the diet and we're just finishing out strong or what, but like I was definitely sandpaper and angry. So I think I did it maybe 3 times in my whole career, though, because I just couldn't get it that often.
Yeah. Maybe a good warning is like if you have any sort of temper issues or something, Halo's maybe not a good idea. Yeah. Okay. I did have a guy do a show this year, and for the first time ever, I helped him, and he just used a bit of test and master on, and he kept asking me, when do we add the trend? When do we add the trend?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, your weight cap's going to be really tough as it is.
Yeah.
So let's just not do trend. Like, let's just get you shredded and you'll be in the weight. And he was like, okay. And then after the show, he told me, he's like, that was the best experience ever not using trend.
Huh. Yeah.
He was like, I had like no problems the last month for the show. I just slept, felt fine, didn't argue with my wife.
Yeah.
Competed. And he's like, I don't know if I ever want to use trend again. And I was like, that's interesting. People got to really realize trend. I mean, lots of guys, the old school guys that I know, they call trend divorce in a bottle.
Yeah, I've heard
that. That's great.
We recently had gotten asked that too. Do you need trend for
it's a very expensive bottle then?
You wind up fucking something or breaking something or,
Yeah.
Good shit. What else?
All right. Let's see. Question for the next episode. When doing progressive overload, what rep number do you try to hit before moving up in weight?
Well, I operate on a range. So if the range is 12 to 15, I don't stop until I'm at least 15. Sometimes that means I go over and get 16. I do not understand people that make a rep range like 12 to 15, they get 13 and they're going up. I'm like, well, then odds are you're going to get 11 or 10. Like, I don't ever want to choose a weight that I'm not within range on.
Yeah.
You know, especially like the heavy sets, like 6 to 8 reps. Chances are I'd much rather see you hit 10 on accident than hit 3. And guys do that. They're like, oh, we got 3. I'm like, what the fuck were you doing handling that weight?
Yeah.
I could have told you before you started you weren't getting, 6. Jesus. So high end of rep range for sure is my answer.
All right.
I agree.
Ron's got me angry now. I'm just like yelling at nothing. Ron.
All right. Since you agree, I shall move on to the next one. Andy says, what's the upper limit of heavy as far as music that Ron likes? I thought that was a good one for Ron.
That is a good one. I'm curious.
Well, I've said this before. The band that I was like a real true fan of, where I like had every album, went to see them live, knew every word to every song, learned a bunch of riffs. The heaviest band that I was ever really into was Pantera. They're like that power groove metal. I say they're the greatest metal band of the 90s without a doubt. And Dimebag is on my, Mount Rushmore of guitar players. So I would say Pantera. But I've had people send me stuff. They're like, hey, is this too heavy for you? And it was like Kill Switch Engage or, Five Finger Death Punch and stuff like that. I'm like, no, that stuff's not too heavy for me at all. Yeah. Some of the new metal's a little too studio. Like it's a little too, a little too perfect for me. I like my metal a little rough around the edges. But yeah, I like some of that stuff. I'm not into like the hyper technical, like Gojira or Meshuggah or any of that, like really, really complicated, like symphonic metal. I'm not really into that stuff.
What about like Hate Breed?
Yeah, there's some Hate Breed stuff I can take. Yeah, we got some on the playlist at the gym. Yeah, Hate Breed. Yeah. There's a lot of like pretty heavy bands that I think, oh, it's fucking pretty cool. And I've seen a lot of bands in concert that were heavy that were really awesome. Like, I saw a band called Soulfly. So the guy from Sepultura, he started Soulfly, and I saw them a couple times, and they were awesome. And then like there's some other heavy music. Like, have you ever seen Ministry?
Oh yeah,
I saw Ministry. Like, that's dark. Yeah, I've seen Ministry twice. That's dark, sort of industrial, electronic fused with metal. Like, it's a very, very heavy, aggressive.
I was a big Ministry fan back in the day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like that's heavy shit, especially when you see them play, you're like, oh, they're fucked up.
Yeah.
They're fucked up.
Not quite the same, but 9 Inch Nails were kind of had a similar following,
I loved, so that was one of the best live shows I ever saw. I was blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dusty, you saw them too.
First concert.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Right. But yeah, I'm not into like death metal.
Question for Scott on the next show. What's at your best? Which did you enjoy more, bodybuilding or sending rounds? I love that everybody on the show knows that term. I can't pick. It's like, picking which kid is your favorite.
You can pick which kid is your favorite.
You're just not supposed to say.
You know what? I'm training again, and it's going well. And I'm obviously not have as much muscle or as much strength, but I am loving it all the same as I ever have. So I couldn't, as long as I can still train, I would probably, I'd probably pick training, I guess.
Wow. Yeah, training's I got the health aspect to it,
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
Let's see here. Question for the next episode. I've always learned about bodybuilding, training, diet, etc. from listening to experienced athletes, coaches' perspectives, since they all have real-world application. My question is, if I'm working with a coach for contest prep and he 100% believes in minimizing all sodium for 16 weeks, which I know isn't good, or he says doesn't matter what gear you take as long as it's a total of 1 gram, what do I do here? I'm the guy that came to the coach for help, and trying to question these instructions comes off as no better than you. I mean, when it comes to the situation, after watching all you guys' videos, I think I do know better. Yes, this is for real, and I'm 11 weeks out. Thanks, crew.
Dusty at dustyhanshaw.com. Send me the email. You're currently 10 weeks out. I can still get you ready. Get the sodium in as soon as you see this, because fuck, that's dumb. And only to be matched by the dumbness of it doesn't matter as long as it's a gram.
Gram a deca.
So,
here I come.
So a gram of Omnidrin will be just as good to prep on as a gram of Masteron.
But only can be matched by a gram of Halo.
Right.
There's this new idea going around that all steroids are equal. I guess there was a study that said, as far as protein synthesis goes, that, say, Masteron was no more or less effective than Tren. And I think that, yeah, but that's going around. Then the thought is being presented that all steroids are equal, more or less.
Yeah, well, some of them cause water retention through aromatization, and some of them do not. Some of them cause crazy cholesterol problems on blood panels.
Yeah, just take a gram of EQ for a long period of time. That'll be fun.
Yeah, just see what happens to your blood your thickness on a gram of EQ, and watch what happens to your liver enzymes on 500 anadrol a day or whatever the fuck you want to take. Like, there's difference, and these studies are infancy. Like, what is this, the first study ever done on comparing steroid protein synthesis in a bodybuilder?
Well, you're also comparing one thing as if that's the only thing a steroid does.
Yeah, as if that's the only thing that, and they all do essentially enhance protein and nitrogen retention. So yes, they all kind of do the same thing. But, it's like having, how's this? Here's an analogy. You can get any guitar player you want that's good. They all do the same thing. But who do you want to tour with and live in the van with and eat with and hang out with? Right? there might be 20 guys that all play guitar just as good, but there's a lot of other things going on in that band.
Yeah. It's a perfect example. I mean, all kidding aside, I really would step away from a coach that thinks that, though, because these are two things that are very important, and or just do ignore those things if the diet is correct. But I mean, I don't ever suggest people ignore their coaches, either work with them or don't, because you can't give someone the credit or discredit them if you don't do what they say.
Yeah.
You know, so, but I really would, because that's just, and those are two things that to me aren't even debatable. Like, that's just wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. There's always the option of doing your own prep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is that.
Like I did it a bunch of times. I did really good at it too. You know,
I actually just had a client that I told him to do that because he had a lot. It wasn't a bad thing. He had a lot of information. I don't even want to say he was resisting. He was just asking questions. And I said, look, man, I'm not mad, but I think you should take this alone, because the things you're asking are great questions, and it's a great way to find out what your body does experimenting with them. But why would you want to experiment and pay me to do it? Because I'm not experimenting. I know what will work, but I'm not saying it's the only way.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great point. Well, how come you have me eating oatmeal? Well, because that's what you were eating off season, and you clearly like oatmeal. So I kept it on your plan. Like, if you're tired of it, let me know. We can swap it out. Like, there's no magic. Like, you know what I mean? People get like that.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yeah.
Well, that's what you were doing. That's what we're doing.
I do it because it's easy. Like, when I write diets, I almost write them exclusively with rice outside of breakfast, because that's what I eat, because it's easy and I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And I never get tired of eating jasmine rice. And people are like, God, I'm so bored of jasmine rice. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What would you like?
And, also just to minimize complaining and any gut issues, white rice is what they use on all those inflammatory diets to help people out. So if you just put people on white rice, you're going to minimize any like those other random things that people complain about when they're eating lots of food,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, I got one more here. Question for the next episode, Ron. Had you handled Phil Heath's nutrition and training for his Olympias, in what ways do you think his physique would have looked different, and how Hanny brought him in? Thanks, guys.
Oh,
he would have been way fucking better. Way better.
He would have never won shit.
That garbage he bought in 2011. God, I'm sure you could have fixed that mess.
Well, I'll take that as a funny question. That's a joke question, trying to rid me a little bit. At the end of the day, this is a great example of how being the opposite of a coach jumper can be a great thing. Phil worked with Hani. They had some early success. They won this. They got a pro card. They did some shows together. They worked on his physique. They got the Olympia, and then they kept working and they kept working and they kept working.
Yeah.
Phil didn't. When Phil was getting top 5 or not winning a show, he lost to Kai Green at the Arnold that one year. When that stuff was happening, Phil wasn't shopping around for a new coach. He wasn't trying to see, what does Hanny not know? It's pretty difficult to replace a coach who actually fucking cares and really wants to help you. That can be invaluable. And if you have a coach like that, work with him. He wants to win, just like you do. And if you get, third at this, or Kai Green beat me at the Arnold, imagine if he would have fired Hani and tried Milos. Who knows what would have happened? Milos might have got him an Olympia, but also Milos's plan might have not been great for Phil. He might have not mentally been a good match for that complicated of a scheme. it might not, you know what I mean? Because it's not just about what the coach knows. It's about matching him to your mentality. You know, you get someone who's like, because I'm a pretty relaxed guy. Like there's a lot of stuff that I don't think matters. Mm-hmm. And I think it's mental masturbation and a waste of your energy, and it causes nothing but stress. But if you're the type of guy who's like ultra fixated on those things, you might think I don't care.
Yeah, I could see
it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't care. I don't think it matters at all.
Yeah.
So I think you should forget about it and focus on training legs tomorrow. So finding someone that matches and cares, that's invaluable. And that's what Hani and Phil is. That's just a great example of them just, you know, believing in each other and working together. And, you know, I still see like a lot of coach jumping, and it's not bad to switch coaches. Don't get me wrong. You could have gone through 4 coaches in 4 years and you're not necessarily a coach jumper. There could be legitimate reasons for you switching coaches. But some people are coach jumping and they're looking for a miracle, right? They're like, oh, I was 10th with this coach and I was 7th with this coach. And then I was 10th with this coach. So the 7th place coach was a better coach. Yeah. It's like, no, you were leaner that year. You started leaner. You had an easier prep. You didn't have money problems. And the lineup was a bit better or a bit weaker.
Yeah.
You know, like your placing can't dictate how good the coach was. And I see people kind of like looking for the solution, like, oh, to get into the top 5, I need another coach. It's like, no, to get into the top 5, you need bigger pecs and you need to put an inch on your legs.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know. I definitely wouldn't have made Phil Heath better. Let's just say that. Phil's Phil. I'll treat that as a comment question to get us to talk about it.
Yeah. All right. We might have had more, but that was all I found. So guys, if I missed your question, if you want to put it in the next episode, I'd be happy to take it for next time. Bring it to the guys.
Perfect.
What do you got, Dusty? You got some questions?
Yeah, I do. I should have been kicking through them here. Bum, bum, bum.
I feel like I've talked way too much, so I need one of you to do a rant.
I'm so relaxed because you've taken that off of me.
I'm very
nice.
self-conscious about my verbal percentage on this episode.
It happens.
Oh God. Oh, this is a good question.
I was talking about Dallas,
for Scott. Right? This is a good question for Scott. Just getting over COVID, about 2.5 weeks, lost 20 pounds, about 60-70% now as far as how he's feeling. How would you train?
You know what? I think, so there's this. I think that I don't know how much we can talk about COVID and still be monetized. That said, we're going to do it. I think the new COVID is like COVID light compared to what it was when I got
0
it.
calories.
Yeah, it's for most people at least. Because I don't know about you guys, but literally like every single client I have has caught it at this point. And for most people, it hasn't been a big deal. The people it's a big deal for are the people that catch a fever and then that fever lasts. The new one doesn't seem to attack the lungs as much. That 20 pounds, I'm going to guess, is mostly water. If it was really, if it was really bad, it might take them a little bit longer to pull it back together. But I would say just across the board with training, my thought is to ease back in. If he's in a place where he can train again, this is any sickness, I would say what I've done, if I feel like my body isn't in a place where I'm ready to just like go back in on my plan, I'll just go real light and have fun with it. Maybe even do even close to like a full body workout and just like a few sets of everything and then see how I feel the next day. I think the biggest mistake to do would be just be like, okay, I'm going to go back in and go 100% hard and I'm going to push my way through this. But, I think that there's a point that we have to listen to our bodies. And I think after you're sick, that's one of those points. I will also add that if he's dealing with any kind of brain fog or anything, injectable L-carnitine was super helpful for me. And Dante had suggested ubiquinol, coenzyme Q10, for heart inflammation, for basically heart remodeling for me. And when I started using that, I noticed that I started feeling a lot better, a lot faster. And I'm running it at a high dose. I'm still using 400 milligrams of ubiquinol a day.
Nice. It's good. It was a good question you actually made. So I came back from Arizona sick.
Yeah.
Like sick enough that I have not been into the gym since I got back. And today I went and did cardio and I literally went in and I was like, we'll see how this goes. So I started the cardio at 3.2 miles an hour on a 3% incline. And I just kicked it up 1% every 5 minutes to see. Got up to 8% incline and I was fine. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go touch chest, see how that goes, because we're shooting with Mutant Friday. So I'm like, I'm both trying to make sure I'm ready to train, but also don't push too early. And I did 5 sets of chest and left.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, the wind was, I could still tell the breathing. I'd get done with a set, and I was like, you're kind of waiting for the next one. I'm like, I'm still breathing hard. Fuck, I'm still breathing hard. I was like, all right, that's probably enough. So that's how I play it out, is based on lungs on a lot of stuff. They'll tell you where you're at, because the strength was fine, but the lungs after each attempt, I was like, okay, we'll come back tomorrow, see where we're at. I'm going to be the same thing. I'm going to do like shoulders. I definitely would do like you said, Scott. I wouldn't go in with a plan.
Yeah.
Just go in and train, even if it's one body part. Like, I didn't know I wasn't going to leave the Smith machine today, but I didn't. I was like, all right, that's good. I got a pump. Let's roll. I mean, I wanted to make sure I was full in my green shirt for the episode, and
nice,
I am.
nice,
So
nice.
we're good.
It worked. And I think a big part of that too is what you said, see where we're at that next day, right? That'll tell you a lot, because I found for me, and having gotten real sick, that it was like, even when I got to the point I could get good workouts in, I might be wrecked, like just wrecked the next day, versus now I'm doing pretty good with it. But, that would be my thought. Don't just push through.
All right, next question. Do you believe in depletion training on a peak week?
I don't really use the term. I don't use that term. I don't use that term ever. I tell people to train pretty normally. I maybe tell them to stop going to failure the last week, maybe. Some guys I tell them to train normally. And then it's like Thursday, I tell them like, okay, today's your last day. Just like get a pump and move some blood around. You know what I mean? But I don't really I don't change workouts. Whatever, put the muscle there, keep it there. Try to keep loading things so that they don't leave your body. You got to load the muscle so it stays. And I just back off on like the tear down, and going in and smashing stuff. I just say, okay, like you're a week out now. Let's just like kiss failure on a couple sets and just get some good. But I think it's still important to like keep your training pretty normal. I don't like changing a bunch of stuff. The only time I would tell someone, for example, Jaws, when he went up after the Van Pro, he ate himself up to 192 by Monday. And then he wanted to do Chicago on Friday. And he had to lose 12 pounds. So for him, I was like, okay, let's pump more volume, like do extra sets. Like
you were
gotta
burning calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to burn all this glycogen off. Like, but I don't normally do that with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might. I think it varies for me though. And I don't call it. I might call it a depletion workout, but my goal is just basically to maybe not have somebody pushing as hard.
Right.
Something like that.
There we go. Do you think I should train when I don't feel it? Just don't feel the gym at all these days.
Well, sometimes a lack of motivation is a sign. A lack of motivation is a psychological symptom of overtraining.
Yeah.
And that happens with all athletes. If the motivation, you have to be able to tell, okay, is this just me not having motivation and I have to just kick in my discipline, right? Like during contest prep or something, you might have a week where you're running on discipline. But then there's also like where you like are like performance inhibited and lacking motivation, and strength is down. And like, it can be an added symptom of you need rest. You need some time away from the gym to reassess like, okay, I really want to get back in there. Sometimes the best thing to do is take 3-4 days off and you're like, fuck, I just want to get in the gym.
Right.
So yeah, something like that. I just went 4 days without training. So when I got off the plane yesterday, I was like, I didn't have much time, right? I had a very small window of time when I got off the plane and I went to the gym and I pounded chest and biceps in like 40 minutes. And I was like, oh God, that felt good. Just like reset, Yeah.
Dusty caught that just in time.
Very
just
speed.
in time.
Mute speed high for sure. Oh, just two hoes rambling, walking in. That's what happens in my house. Anyways, they're young ones. It's fine. I don't know if all parents call their kids hoes. I don't know.
I'm thinking not.
Anyway.
Probably not.
A little bit of a relaxed
weird
terminology around your house.
I just, you know, it is what it
your
is.
House,
anyways.
your house is unique circumstances, Dusty. You don't live like everyone else.
I don't want to. That's for sure. No. Let's see here. Notice on a flat. I don't know what that is. Put down. No. This is one of those things. When cutting, should I try to cut down on mainly carbs until I'm fully depleted, then carb up?
Does he mean
what does
like?
That mean?
He means cutting carbs out, like cut down using your carb intake as your your cutting factor. I think is what I took from it.
Yeah, maybe.
You should only have your carbs as low as they have to be to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you want to eat the most you can eat and still get leaner. You know what I mean? So, you know, you don't have to deplete down to nothing. Like, you know, I had a client tell me, one of my guys that competed on the weekend, he was like, yeah, this prep was so much easier than last prep. I was feeling like guilty, but he's in better condition. It's far better.
Right.
And he's like, you know, like last year was miserable. And this year, I think the lowest I went was 100 grams of carbs for like a few days.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you got more muscle. You're bigger. You know, you started leaner. You know, preps aren't always progressively worse.
True.
You know?
Sometimes that is a mind screw, though. I've had that before too, where you're like, you ignore the pictures, even though you see them. It's like
I shouldn't be eating this much.
Yeah, why am I not hating life currently? That's not good.
Yeah.
It can't be good. The other guy's got to be hating life more than me.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more that I thought was good, and I answered it already. But I want to see I literally, you know, I put these question boxes up, and the plan is to answer them later. And this one I answered immediately because it's just something that's bothering my soul currently. How to know when the body needs a refeed / a maintenance break while cutting?
Well,
keyword needs.
Well, needs. I don't know. Is this a trick question, Dusty? Are you going to make fun of my answer?
No, I mean, it was just funny because I'll just tell you what I said and then go from there. I said the true answer is it doesn't. Refeeds have become a fad that I don't think are needed. If you want to get nasty sliced, don't plan on them. If your body shows that it needs something, give it to it. Like I do think that that's the problem now is like people are starting a prep and they're saying like, I wonder when I'm going to need a refeed. And the word refeed nowadays means pizza and beer and, you know, whatever. I'm not being literal. It's like, it could mean, okay, you know what, today have 200 extra grams of rice.
Yeah.
Like it, you know what I'm saying? The word refeed now symbolizes cheeseburgers and junk. And I think that guys were getting more peeled when back in the day, it used to be nothing ever went back up. Like, and I'm not saying that's better, but it is true. Right. It was like when the cardio went up, it never came back down. When the food went down, it never came back up. It only got worse. Your
rising.
Entire prep just got fucking worse. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily right, but it's it definitely fucking worked.
But the mentality certainly produced a lot of sliced bodybuilders. Yeah,
exactly. And I think if you look, I mean, truthfully, and I hate to make this a country thing, but if you look overseas, I think there's a lot less refeeds going on in England than there are in the United States. And when you go to an amateur bodybuilding show there, motherfuckers are sliced. They just are.
What do you want? What do you want? To be in really good shape or a burger? You know, I have to think that to myself at times. I think we all do, you know, because it's easy to lose that perspective when you're real hungry. You know what I mean? But it's that instant gratification.
I just don't think that they necessarily make you that much better. And again, I've had many during my career, so it's not like I'm like taking a stand here. I mean, like we just talked about, I mean, there were 3 days in a row, one prep, that I had cheeseburgers and fries. And the third day I didn't even want to do it. I was like, this doesn't seem right. Because it felt wrong to be eating that way during a prep. And like Ron said, I was peeled and Chris didn't just suddenly decide to be a nice guy. It's not his fucking job. But I do think that most competitors could remove them or definitely cut them way back and be better than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I tell most people, like I have a lot of people ask, like, what's your stance on refeeds, before they hire you?
It's a sales pitch.
And I
go, part of it, right?
Yeah. Sales pitch now. And I said, listen, I just had a classic guy who went from 240 to his weight cap of 180 in like 24 weeks without a single high day. But then between the first time he hit 180 and his third show, he probably had 10 high days.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you have to get the fat off first. If you're starting your prep at 250 and you're going to be 205 on stage shredded, you don't need a refeed at 240. And you certainly don't need a refeed at 235. You're still losing like big chunks of the kidney fat and butt fat and like all this stuff. Like you have to be able to like see all the muscles on your body. Like, oh, the corner of your glute is like there and you've got fibers in the side chest on your glute and your quads are striating. Like, okay, now we can look at like what to do to maximize this muscle mass with the time we have left, and should we refeed you or not? Like, that's how I see them. I tell people, get ready for the first half of your diet to be like, I'm not being nice.
Yeah.
Right. The first half of your diet, you're going to diet for like 2-3 months straight. And you're going to wonder, like, am I ever going to get a refeed? And then once you start to look really fucking good, we'll start to look at like, that's how Chris always treated me. Like, I think I did 10 weeks like straight. And then Chris was like, let's fill you out. And I was like, oh, okay. Do this now. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But you got to get a lot of fat off before you need a refeed.
It is a sales pitch now, my clients eat all this food, all this junk food, and I think it works too. And at the end of the day, people want to believe there's an easier way. People want to believe it.
That bothers me though, because there used to be, it used to be what was the best way. That was the only thing you cared about. Like, what is the best way to get sliced? And now there's stands against it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all that. I'm like,
right.
But is your way better? Because if you're not telling me it's better, I don't give a shit. Like if white fish and green beans gets me in a better contest shape, it's fucking 12 weeks. I'm down. I can do anything for 12 weeks.
Yeah. I've always said that
12 weeks is nothing.
There's two types of people. I've always said that there's the people who will ask, what more can I do? And the people who ask, what more can I get away with?
Right.
Yes.
That's
true. Great. That's a good quote, Scott.
Thank you.
Make
that into a meme or something,
Let's finish on that.
With me like on a mountain, like looking
over.
Yeah.
Let's leave everybody to dwell on the philosophical proposition of that question. Which competitor are you? What more can I do, or what more can I get away with? Okay.
Wow. I'm a retired one.
You're retired. I love it. Okay, we'll end it. That's enough of us talking. Hey, well, enough of me talking.
Just like that. Just cut it right there, Scott. They hate when we do that.
That sounds good. Let's do that.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment.
Ring the bell.
And remember,
ask questions.
Yeah, ring the bell and ask questions. And remember, Mutant is supporting the show. IamMutant.com. Go check it out. It's a North American code you can use. Big Ron 20.
Dusty 20.
And Dusty 20. So enter either one of those codes. They both work. Maybe not.
Mine gets you faster delivery.
Mine works better. But I also do have to thank the people that have been using my code, because I get an email every time someone uses it.
Yeah.
And since the show got sponsored, I've noticed a massive uptick
in
the number of emails I get of my code being used.
Very good.
So
it's 20% off.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's 20% off. So go, fuck. We are desperately trying to prove that we're worth something to mutants so they don't leave us in anything. And I will see you this Wednesday in Vegas. Hey, Dusty?
Oh, shit.
Yes, sir. I leave at 7 a.m.
Are we recording next week or what's going on? Are you guys going to be back?
We'll be back.
Okay.
So one question. I saw on the schedule that we shoot together on Friday, correct?
Yes.
What are we going to train?
We have a training schedule, which I don't know, but more importantly, we have an eating mission.
Oh, well, the eating problem, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I just need to know what body part has to be adequately recovered in order for me to train with you. I was going to do legs today.
You can call it. I'm going to let you call it. It's perfectly fine.
Well,
you're going to call it because I'm not training anything between now and then. So other than a light touch of shoulders tomorrow, remember, because I'm trying to get better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
I'm going to go do legs today, and I'll have pretty much everything will be ready if you want. So we can talk about it. Once we get to Vegas Wednesday night on the schedule, I arrive Wednesday, and then Wednesday night on the schedule, it just says driving range.
Nice. Yes. We're going. So yeah. And it doesn't say this yet, but you're smoking a cigar that you've never had before.
Oh, awesome.
I'm having them shipped to the Dragon's Lair. So
nice.
Oh, nice.
I have one request. You guys gave me one picture when you went to LA. And that picture was used for several thumbnails. And when I had that new picture, we literally got like twice as many views on that episode. So I'm requesting another picture since you guys are going to be together. Do your best. Do your best.
We'll get one with cigars. We'll get one with cigars. How's that? We'll get a cigar one. Nice. How do you hold a cigar, Dusty? You have to hold it like this, or do you hold it like this?
Oh, you can do either. Yeah, it's either. It's your technique.
You don't have to be like Colombian.
By the end, man, if I really enjoy it, I'm like roach clipping that shit. Just like I take that thing all the way down.
Okay. We'll get a cigar pick. We'll get a food pick. We'll get some in the gym picks.
There you go.
And a gym
That'll be good.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay. So Wednesday to Saturday, me and Dusty, Jamie the Giant.
Nice.
Andrea Shaw. We got a bunch of people joining us and our new, still kind of secret, signed athlete who's going to be our big announcement.
Nice.
Once this individual's been secretly signed for like a month, so it's a little crazy.
Yeah, they just haven't used him yet because they wanted to get some real nice graphics done and like do it right. So we can't wait to announce that guy. He's going to be a great part of the Mutant team, and Dusty and I are going to love having him around. So
thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Very excited.
I let the cat out of the bag.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.